War used to be something that was happening far away. It never affected my personal life. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, however, I suddenly live in a country that has an aggressor as one of its next-door neighbors. My world, that always felt so safe, has suddenly become a scary place. The war in Ukraine is state against state, with weapons, soldiers, and tanks on the battlefield. However, the situation is much more complex, with a range of events and threats that not only target Ukraine. These events and threats can happen openly. For example, military exercises to show power, or the threat of nuclear weapons. Others are not always identifiable as weapons of war, such as cyber intelligence or influence operations. We need to understand this hybrid threat landscape and how it affects us. So what are typical characteristics of hybrid threats? Traditional warfare can be a part of it, but we are also exposed to information campaigns. Disinformation and propaganda are spread to fuel distrust in national authorities and to cause fear, uncertainty, or confusion. Hybrid threats is a combination of various things. Traditional war can be a part of it, but we're also exposed to information campaigns. Disinformation and propaganda spread to fuel distrust in national authorities or to cause fear, distrust, and confusion. This can be combined with physical means. Sabotaging a power grid could be one way to send a message, or cyber attacks to steal information or cause business disruptions. Means can also be cultural, like funding and building football stadiums in foreign countries in order to gain influence. Another characteristic of hybrid threats is plausible deniability. It's often difficult to prove who is responsible. Take the sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines. It's often difficult to prove who's responsible. Different motives can point to several potential culprits. The perpetrator can keep silent or claim not to have been involved. Hybrid threats finds itself in a gray zone between peace, crisis, and war. The goal is not necessarily to achieve something immediately. Often we don't know where it begins, nor where it ends. Take the 2016 presidential election in the US. It took the Special Investigation Council 674 days to conclude that the Russians had interfered, and I quote, in a sweeping and systematic fashion. It may have seriously damaged US democracy, and for all we know, it can partially explain the attack on Capitol Hill, 6th of January 2021. So, what makes us vulnerable to hybrid threats? Well, it's several things that we love and treasure, but that also have a downside. We love globalization because it brings the whole world into our kitchens and ourselves to different parts of the planet. But it also makes us vulnerable for disruptions. Take the COVID restrictions. That caused a limited number of dock workers being allowed to work at the same time, causing containers piling up at ports around the world, halting international trade. A couple of months ago, I ordered lenses online. As you can see, I never got them. We love digitalization because we can easily communicate with each other and apps that makes our life easier. If I'm lost somewhere, I just activate the GPS on my phone for Google Maps. But it also makes us vulnerable. Another person on the other side of the world could be tampering with the water distribution system in your town. Online administration systems and infrastructure can be hacked. And think about all the information we are sharing. Facebook posts about our feelings, diseases, travel plans, our children, or TikTok videos with glimpses of our lives. If I'm to buy a bus ticket or a coffee, groceries, I almost always use digital payment services. Through the National Website for Health Services, I can easily access my and my son's medical records and medical prescriptions. And these prescriptions can be accessed by every pharmacy in Norway. All this is very convenient. But all this information is somewhere online and therefore in danger of being hacked or misused. You might think, so what? Information about you can be used as an entry point to something bigger. For example, the workplace, the systems of the workplace, or the university where you study. In 2015, Bill Gates warned us that we were not ready for the next pandemic, and he was right. It's the same for hybrid threats, except that it's not the same. COVID-19 came 4 years after Bill Gates' warning. Hybrid threats are already all around us. And however terrible and complicated the pandemic is, it was still possible to trace it where it started and how it developed. And we could issue concrete measures, such as lockdown, social distancing, hospital treatments, and vaccines. Hybrid threats is another dimension altogether. It's complex and diffuse and at times invisible. But that does not mean that we are helpless. We don't need to be sitting ducks. So what can governments and other authorities do? They can establish police departments specialized in countering influence operations. And they can make sure that our elections are not tampered with. They can prioritize protecting critical infrastructure, both physically and digitally. What can industry and businesses do? When they prepare for cyber attacks, they should not only think ICT security, but also about their personnel. And in case of a cyber attack, it should be possible to operate the system manually as a fallback. And finally, what can you do? And you? And you? More than you think. At elections, think beyond your wallet. Does the party you vote for think emergency preparedness? And do they dare take long-term decisions? Keep yourself informed. Read several sources, not only your daily newspaper, and not only in your native language. Consult primary sources whenever possible. You might get different perspectives on the same issue. Our passwords are our first line of defense against cyber attacks. Did you know that 72% of us reuses their passwords or with small variations? I admit I used to be one of them. So activate two-step digital login whenever possible. That means that you log in with something you know, your password, in addition to something you get, a code via SMS or an app. Consider using a password manager. In that way, you only need to remember one master password to access them all. Be alert and avoid phishing. If you get a message from your post office asking for your payment information, don't. It's most likely fraud. Check your cookie preferences. I know it's very tempting to just click accept all before you keep browsing. But use those 5 seconds to uncheck those cookies that are not necessary before you move on. Some websites allow you to click reject all or accept necessary cookies only immediately. That takes you a split of a second. Others, you have to click read more, scroll down, tick away all those cookies that are not necessary before you click save. They hope you don't bother doing this, because then they can save more information about you and me to be used for targeted commercials. Check your digital profile. The information about me, about you, can be used for fraud, cyber attacks, and espionage mapping. Google yourself and see what the world knows about you. Is any of this sensitive? Go to your privacy settings and restrict who you are sharing information with. If you want your social media activity to be open for everyone to see, keep that in mind before you share personal information. Don't add your contact details on Facebook or similar platforms. And if you discover that someone has made a fake profile in your name, contact a specialized service to help you delete it. My list is not exhaustive. There is a lot we can do. We don't need to be sitting ducks. We could swim, we could run, or we can fly. Thank you.